Solar System. Sol is the home system of the Earth Empire. Its importance to the Empire cannot be overestimated, despite the fact that most of its natural resources have been exhausted. Without exception, all colonies in Sol and beyond exist to support life on Earth. There is evidence of major information cleansing throughout the Sol system. Strategic information may therefore prove to be unreliable. Colonization of the Sol system was completed within 140 years, following the Empire's arrival on Mars in 3095 AD. Expansion beyond Earth was essential due to the depletion of resources. Following the colonization of Pluto in 4134 AD, the Caucus for Exploratory Affairs insisted that expansion beyond Sol must be investigated. Internal memos confirm that Sol was close to exhaustion. Early probe reports suggested the possibility of sustaining a colony in the Alpha Centauri system. This was confirmed by a research team from the DGU Corporation in 4140 AD. Initial attempts to breach the warp hull led to spontaneous hardware burnup, although this information was blacked out by the military command. Freighters and militia subsequently breached the warp hole in 4175 AD.
The Sol system is currently thought to be almost impenetrable. Its core defenses are unknown, as scanning operations consistently fail to produce known readings. Frequency range projections phase without warning, leading us to believe that the system is running a warp induction loop. Extreme caution essential. The entire Empire is dedicated to the defense of Sol.
Pluto is a virtually derelict rock planet on the edge of the Sol system. The surface is marked by quarries and mine installations. Biosphere remains can be seen in all quarters. Only a handful of operational biospheres remain. These are subject to frequent vandalism. Occasional human activity has been detected, although the presence of military or law enforcement personnel is negligible due to the hazardous nature of the planet's surface. Most of the current population are of criminal extraction. It seems likely that the Bureau for Punitive Affairs regards Pluto as a punishment zone. Biospheres of the same design as those used on Venus were established on Pluto in 4134 AD. However, internal memos reveal that a large gravitational discrepancy was discovered following completion of the colony's basic infrastructure. This resulted in major atmospheric leakage, which rendered the planet uninhabitable for 7 Earth years as repairs were made. By the mid-4140s, extreme body disfigurement was noted on those working in Pluto's mines. Dr. J. Swartza noted, near-surface elements seem to contain anthrosic toxins which cause severe skin withdrawal. There were controlled evacuations from most of the colony, although criminal elements were still brought in. They were forced to continue scouring the planet for usable resources, suffering hideous disfigurement in the process. This practice is still believed to be occurring.
Pluto is not defended as heavily as other planets in the Sol system, although law enforcement craft scan the area frequently. Empire operations are more concerned with the non-escape of those prisoners resident on the planet than attack from outside.
Neptune is one of the most important planets in the Sol system, as it houses the Colonial Navy's early warning outpost. This will trigger immediate retaliation should the system come under attack. It is a gas planet occupied by military installations and an indeterminate number of human personnel. Certain binary links traced to a hyperdump on the Earth's moon contain information suggesting that the planet is entirely unmanned. However, this is contradicted by data reports gathered from undisclosed sources close to Empire Command. It is likely to be the case that Neptune is the subject of a massive misinformation campaign. Neptune was colonized in 4115 AD. A number of probes had already been dispatched beyond the Sol system in an effort to establish whether there was any immediate threat to the system from outside sources. No data was received to suggest that Sol was under danger from other life forms. However, internal discussion documents already confirmed that if the Empire continued its policy of colonization, resistance could be expected. The increasing militarization of the Empire reflected its growing use of oppressive population control techniques throughout its colonies. When these techniques were backed by advanced information cleansing, they could be executed without the knowledge of the colonists. The further the Empire stretched, however, the harder it would be to control these colonial populations.
All attempts to ascertain defense levels on Neptune have been unsuccessful. However, we can be certain they are vast. As a Class 1 military establishment, Neptune is protected by a self-generating ether veil of the type used by Empire Command itself. All attacks should be considered of negligible use.
Uranus is a gas planet housing the Colonial Navy Academy. Now depleted of all resources, the planet is still of immense value to the Empire due to its massive military training infrastructure and concentration of military recruits. It is believed that training for a senior position within the Colonial Navy takes up to 47 Earth years. However, training is carried out on a shift system, so that only 7% of the entire Academy membership is present on Uranus at any one time. Persistent scanning has failed to reveal how such large numbers of recruits are transported. Chemical extraction facilities were established on Uranus in 4091, although the planet proved unsuitable for protracted excavation. The techniques used on Saturn resulted in a number of small-scale explosions which injured senior Empire commanders. The extraction plants were closed down shortly after these incidents. However, the Defense Bureau proposed a basic military training site on Uranus in 4098. It is believed that the growing threat of terrorism on Saturn was giving cause for concern. The site was subsequently awarded Academy status by the Anti-Insurgency Council in 4115 AD. Potential students are selected using brain scanning procedures which detect the presence of a certain chromosome deformity believed to indicate aptitude in military situations.
Uranus benefits from a vast infra-network trigger detection facility, which makes all approaches highly dangerous. It has not been possible to simulate these conditions, and therefore all projections are highly unstable. Cloaked attack may activate responses throughout the entire Sol system.
Saturn is a large ringed gas planet with a small quantity of very valuable chemical resources. Sky cities, similar to those used on Jupiter, are suspended above the planet's surface. Frequent personnel drops are made using self-propelled carriers which skim the outer gas wall and extract the chemical elements via centrifugal generator. However, internal political problems within the Saturn Residential Committee have led to supplies from the planet fluctuating dramatically. For this reason, the Empire no longer regards Saturn as a reliable source of raw materials, despite the value of those resources which are successfully exported. Saturn was colonized in 4076 AD after the Johnson probe confirmed the presence of certain valuable inert gases within the surface levels. Sky cities were developed using cantilever techniques pioneered on Jupiter, although the designs were substantially modified following Jupiter's catastrophic Sky City disaster. Elements within the labor force on Saturn refused to accept that any alterations had been made to the design, and distributed literature claiming that the sky cities were death traps. A number of anonymous digimems were logged at Anti-Corruption HQ, threatening terrorist action unless Saturn was evacuated immediately. No evacuation took place, and despite the absence of any apparent weakness in the Sky City design, terrorist acts remain commonplace on Saturn. Consequently, anti-insurgency operations are intense.
The Empire regards the current political situation on Saturn as highly dangerous, despite the fact that the population is loyal. Factions within the population are highly volatile. The planet is therefore very heavily defended. Anti-personnel capabilities are exceptional.
Jupiter is a large gas planet housing some of the first sky cities built by the Empire. Most of these cities are now obsolete in design, although they are still heavily populated and hold symbolic value for the Empire. The planet's moons have been extensively mined for core minerals used in the creation of the first interstellar drives. 5 of the original 18 moons have since fragmented to asteroids through overmining. All bar 3 of the remainder have been abandoned. Initial civil unrest following the 4091 Sky City disaster has been quelled. Population control is in effect. Due to the gaseous nature of the planet's surface, initial colonization used experimental sky cities. After 8 years of successful use, material stresses were discovered, but internal memos since uncovered reveal that the population was not informed. Internal binary calls logged at 34, 21, 66, 45 reported the collapse of Jupiter's Sky City 493. 57% of Jupiter's population was killed. Memo traced to the Bureau for Labor Control admitted, material stresses are not unknown in structures of this type. City collapse may be endemic. Expendable populations only to be installed. Due to the importance of the moon mining industry for the expanding empire, intensive research programs were established to develop more stable upper atmosphere installations. At the present time, these subsequent designs have proved acceptable.
Jupiter is heavily defended. Lunar mining installations are armed with industrial plasma cannons. The lack of a resident attack fleet makes fast, cloaked attacks feasible. Support from other Sol planets is likely, though fast attacks should be possible before major reinforcements arrive.
Mars, still often referred to by the archaic term, the Red Planet, was the first planet to be colonized. The population is fiercely loyal to the Empire. It is not certain why this population is maintained, since Mars's resources were depleted several centuries ago. The pyramid structures which cover the planet's surface are not seen anywhere else in the Empire due to their inefficient heat distribution. However, they became a symbol of successful colonization and are maintained on Mars for propaganda reasons. Following major advances in atmosphere simulation technology, the first colony settled on Mars in 3095 AD. Defecting Empire officials have raised the possibility that the first wave of colonists suffocated after a respiratory system unaccountably closed down in 3096. If this is so, the Empire has successfully kept this information from the current population, who regard themselves as chosen people descended from the original pioneers. It is known that the Empire practices gerrymandering procedures to maintain the fierce loyalty of the Mars colony. Mind-wiping technology is used to create a population highly susceptible to suggestion, although the reasons are unknown. no resources remain on Mars.
Mars is a heavily defended planet, which makes use of a number of rapid deployment technologies. It is suspected that the large and fanatical population may be trained in extreme suicide techniques.
Venus is a rock planet housing defunct biospheres and mine installations. It once offered employment to millions of colonists. The original boom planet, Venus was established as a colony following the success of the first mines on Mars. Its exported minerals were used in high-quality stress support systems. Now derelict, it was once believed that Venus had been demolished by Empire Command. Its disappearance was, in fact, caused by experiments in planetary shielding. Although there were already a few prototype biospheres on Earth, the colonization of Venus in 4024 AD saw them constructed from prefabricated materials for the first time. The success of shaft G446.X, a basic ore mine, led to the rapid expansion of the colony. Its success resulted in the site being vastly oversubscribed by potential colonists. The selection of workers was carried out by DNA scanning, a technique still used by some Empire corporations despite it being discredited, and successful colonists became the highest-paid workers in the early Empire. However, the high rate of extraction led to the rapid depletion of resources. Colonists were afflicted by health problems, and many were culled in the 4098 Biosphere Clearance Program.
Venus has been the site of a number of military maneuvers since the closure of most of its mines. Various anti-intelligence techniques have been tested in its vicinity. Consequently, it is extremely heavily defended. Navigational equipment may be subject to extreme interference. Proximity to Earth means that counterattack is likely to be instantaneous.
Often referred to by Empire scientists as the Powerball, Mercury provides one of the few examples of the utilization of a renewable energy source by the Empire. The sun provides light and heat. Orbital installations generate power. Shielding technology was specifically developed to protect the new installations based around Mercury from the sun. This technology has since been adapted throughout the colonies for military use, since it enables reflected heat to be transmitted as a digital jamming code, rendering many scanning devices useless. Mercury's precise colonization date is currently unknown, although the idea of establishing a colony was first raised by the Encon Committee in 3025 AD. It was thought that solar energy collected on the surface of Mercury could solve all energy problems on Earth. No further colonization was envisaged. Data traps reveal that commercial bodies such as Dector Mining Inc. and Testex Mineral Extraction orchestrated a smear campaign against the committee, and the plans were abandoned. They forged information supporting reinvestment in fossil fuels, despite the absence of any such fuel on Earth. Earth's mining conglomerates collapsed in the particle bribery scandal of 3076 AD. Mercury's colonization followed sometime later.
Mercury is no longer of immense value to the Empire, as its industrial constructions are of obsolete design, and it is proving costly to maintain. Factions within the Empire have previously considered detonating Mercury. However, political opposition was intense. We must assume Mercury is as well defended as the rest of Sol.
The Earth is the Empire's seat of government. It is of immense symbolic value, as well as being the center of the Empire's military and political power. It is a rock planet, largely covered in water, which was once rich in resources. Systematic extraction of all sources of fuel have left much of the planet sterile, although its wealth remains vast due to the removal of resources from the colonies. all human life can be traced back to origins on Earth. The colonies were established to support life on the planet once its own natural resources had been completely exhausted. The discovery of the drug fluoraldic thorophosphate, commonly known as anti-age, boosted the average age of the Earth's population within a generation. Resource depletion reached epidemic proportions concurrently. Starvation and chronic overcrowding followed. Satellite holding bays were built to house excess humanity in barbaric conditions. Insurrection was anticipated, resulting in a massive expansion of the Earth's military and law enforcement capabilities. However, the artificial atmospheric simulation procedure, perfected by Oxylex Corp in 3046, led to the possibility of habitable colonies on Mars. The Institute for Off-Planet Development stated, "The Martian surface will lend itself to the extraction procedures used on Earth for so many years. Now our workers can live there too. We must proceed with this project or die."
Earth's defenses are the subject of much debate. Hidden matter shielding is likely. Intensity readings are off the scale. Therefore, very little information can be provided. All other factors are unknown.